Testing. All right, I think you guys can hear me. Welcome everyone to the live stream. I see we got 3 people in the stream. If you guys could just let me know, confirm that you can hear me, that would be great. I can see that we can be seen. So we're gonna give it just maybe a couple minutes for people. All right, thank you for confirming. We're gonna wait about, I'd say, a couple minutes, just maybe 2-3 minutes, to see if let other people kind of pile in and join, and then we'll get started with building a process. And if we're lucky, we might have a special guest. For those in the audience who are not familiar with ProcessMaker, ProcessMaker is a low-code to no-code BPM digital process automation tool. And we do things like process orchestration, business process management. And so in this live stream, I'm going to go through building a BPMN 2.0 compliant approval process. And I hope it's one that you guys find interesting. So it's 2:03. Let's give it 2 more minutes. I'll start it at 2:05. Hey, Juan Carlos, can you hear me?
Hello, Ethan, can you hear me?
Yes, me and our 3 viewers can hear you.
Great. Hey guys, good afternoon.
Yep, we're just going to give it a couple more seconds before we get started.
All right.
All right. Well, I think that's enough time for us to get started. So let's go ahead and oh, that's not what I want to show. All right. This is what I want to show. So this is ProcessMaker. I am logged into ProcessMaker. Just give it a second for... There we go. Okay, I can see the YouTube has caught up. It's just a little bit behind. All right, cool. So this is ProcessMaker. I'm logged in as an admin user, as you can see. This is actually my local development environment. And just before I go further, I just want to kind of set the ground stage for what we're going to be doing here. And that's you know, it's a free form. Feel free to engage in the chat. We are actively monitoring the chat, JC and myself. And if there's any questions or anything, you know, please feel free to talk to us. So we're gonna build a, like the title says, a simple approval process. And you know, I was thinking to myself, you know, what would be a cool out of the box type of process that that might be something interesting, something that, you know, you don't see every day. And personally, I am very passionate when it comes to video games. I'm an avid video gamer as much as I am an open source enthusiast. And I've played World of Warcraft since as long as I can remember. And I've done everything from casual to non-casual. Why is this relevant, you might be asking yourself? Well, it's relevant because there are esports these days. I know it's crazy. If they had esports when I was a kid, I probably would not be doing this right now. But there are esports, and in World of Warcraft, there is something called the Race to World First. The Race to World First is the top 100 guilds in World of Warcraft, all competing for the prestige of the first person to kill the last boss on the hardest difficulty, and you get an achievement when you do so. That's called Cutting Edge, or also, you know, abbreviated as CE. So a CE guild is like hardcore people that raid, you know, 3 to 4 times a week, 6 hours a day, each of those times. It's real hardcore, and so when you're investing that much time and effort, especially with all the money involved, there's a very rigorous. There can be, for some of these guilds, a very rigorous application process. So, for example, if I pull up you should be able to see Discord now. If I pull up Discord, this is probably one of the most popular Discords in World of Warcraft for recruiting. So this is the World of Warcraft recruiting Discord. So if we scroll down to, let's say, the United States 1 through 50 world top guilds. So, I mean, this is effectively a form if you think about it, right? Because you're applying for a guild. In this case, they're advertising. They've got what guild and what server. So in this case, it's Twitch Primes is the guild, and the server is Area 52. What are the raid times? What are your progressions? And etc. So we're going to go ahead and build out a workflow that will be taking this data initially, or some of this data, and submitting it for an application for the guild. So let's go ahead and actually, Twitch Prime, if anybody from that guild is watching, please. I'm grateful for the form you've got here. It's actually a Google form. We're going to take this, and this is going to be kind of the basis of what we're going to do in ProcessMaker. All right, so enough of the intro and what we're going to do, and let's actually start. So now that I'm logged into ProcessMaker as an administrative user, I'm going to go ahead and click the New Process button right here. And I'm going to say New Raider application, and we'll put a description here. Workflow for approving a new raider for the guild, and we'll go ahead and save, and it should open up the process map for me to start putting together the properties. Interesting. This is why you don't do demos on local environments sometimes. But let's see here. Did something crash? No, everything's up. So let's try this maybe again. If not, I have other instances I can do this on. Already taken. Okay, so it's already in the database. And this is going to be a very kind of fluid type of session here, because as you can see, we've got all sorts of issues coming out here. So but it did create it. So there we go, new Radar application. So first thing I like to do when I build processes, because I like them to make sense, right? So I usually add a pool first. That's the very first thing I do, because sometimes there can be, just a little tip and trick here, best practice. If you, I don't know what that is, timeout 5,000 exceeded. We can look into that later maybe. But sometimes, it's just better to put your elements directly onto the pool, because it can impact what you can connect to, because we've got things like signal events and messages and stuff that can go in between pools. So it's a good idea to if you're just using pools, which you should be, to just start with that, laying out your process. So we've got here 2 swim lanes. Let's think about it. We've got the person who's going to be submitting an application, right? So we're going to say the recruit, and so the recruit submits the application. So let's think about it. What could be a typical workflow within your average or top 100 cutting edge guild? So you would submit the application, then someone would have to get a notification, right? So let's just start. So I'm gonna start it, and since they're doing it, on a Google form, which is, very good, that's publicly accessible. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing. So I am going to make this into a web entry with anonymous, so basically public to the open. But we don't have a screen yet, so we need to be able to associate that with a screen. And by the way, notice how the icon for the start event has now changed to that of a web entry icon. So then now I'm going to save this so I don't lose a progress, and I'm going to go over to my screens page over here in the left hand corner. By the way, there's a little button down here to expand it so you can very easily see it. And I'm going to create a new screen, and I'm going to give this screen a name, and we're going to call it new application form, new guild application form, and submits the application for the recruit to join the raid team. So then we select what type. So there are different types of screens. So if you're a ProcessMaker 3 person that has used that in the past, then you'll be familiar with the concept of dynaforms. That essentially are the form and display types here. However, the email and conversational is something new with ProcessMaker 4. In ProcessMaker 3, you were able to create email templates. Well, now instead of creating an email template, you're creating an email form that can be used within an email, which we'll get to. And then there's the conversational, which is something you can use to create a bot or create different types of interactive, multi-step wizard type forms. So, all right, we're just going to create your standard form and hit save, and hopefully it doesn't do that, what it did on the process. There we go. It's nice when software works as expected. And this, my friends, is a form builder. Not just a form builder, the form builder, I would argue, because it's ProcessMaker's form builder. And we've got, I just want to point out a couple things that we have here on the enterprise version. We've got an integration with Google, so we can, I don't have this configured correctly right now with my Google API token, so I won't be able to show that. But we do have integration with Google. I would just need to put that in. And we're able to customize this as well. If you're an OEM out there, a white label partner looking to use ProcessMaker, then don't look at this list and say, oh well, this is all that you got. This is custom, and there are a couple other here that are custom. Save search is an enterprise feature, so we are able to extend this as well as the process designer that we saw before. So okay, let's get going with our form. So we want to make a not exact replica, because I'm not going to go into classes and kinds of DPS and stuff. I'm going to make this simpler. So let's make it the application form. So first we need a header. So I think I might have other, actually an existing form in here. So maybe I can reuse that. So I'm going to use the nested screen element. I drag that over here. Now we need to select a screen to nest. So I click on that, and I can select from the list of screens that might be available. So we do not have the header. So I will go over to another instance that I have of ProcessMaker, and if I can log in, JC, do you happen to remember the credentials here?
For what instance?
The app demo. Actually, I think I might remember. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Right, so we're going to the designer. That's where you have all your building blocks and stuff, like we saw. Going to the screens, and let's search for the generic header. There we go. And I'm going to export this, and you see it downloads it as a JSON file. So generic demo header.json. And now I'm going to firstly save this. And now I'm going to go back to the screens. Okay, now it was saved. So now I go back to screens. And when it loads, I will import now a new screen, browse on my computer, that generic demo header, and import. And if all goes well, that will be imported. Great. Screen successfully imported, categories and scripts, if any, were associated. So that's good. So now let's go back to list screens, and I've got my generic demo header here. If I go inside, then I can see what it looks like. So you can see we got some variables in here, and if we preview it, then that's a beautiful looking header that is already made. I don't have to go in and reinvent the wheel, so to speak. So let's go back to our form that we're working on, and now that we have that header, we can just go ahead. No, wrong one. Sorry. No. Okay. New guild application. We go and edit. All right. One moment here. So, DJ, if you want, you can feel free to use the public chat so I can see you. I had to check my phone for that, bud. Okay, so now under the list here, just give it a second. Again, this is going to be a lot faster in a production instance just because this is on my computer, so it's a little bit slower. And there you have it. That header we just reused and put it right there. Now let's go ahead and see what the next one is. So they want contact information. So because gaming is gaming, you have a lot of anonymity issues around it. So you don't usually ask for someone's email address. Like, that's a big no-no, right? Discord and Battle.net, those are, you can make your own usernames. So it's a lot, more anonymous. So what's your contact information? Discord and Battle.net. That way if you're approved or whatever, they can reach out to you by they I mean the guild can reach out to you either via Discord or via in-game the Battle.net system. So that means that we've got contact information. So let's go ahead and look for the line input, and before that, let's just make a table so we can have a multi-column layout. So add that. Now we've got 2 columns, and maybe we want to have a header here to kind of tell us what it is, that it's an application form. So we might say, let's say we add a rich text, because here I can add my own HTML. So I'll go here, and I'm just going to say, let's use, I don't know, an H2 for 2. And we can say guild application form, close H2. And now we've got that little header there. Let's see what that looks like. Cool. I think that looks decent. And now let's look at the line input. There we go. So we're going to put that inside. And now we're going to call this Discord, Discord username. And the label will be Discord username. And it will be type text. Do we want to add any validations? Well, we want to make this required. I think that's all the validations we need for that. Okay, so the next one would be the BattleNet, which why don't we put right under that one, since they're right next to it, rather, since they're hand in hand, so to speak. So we'll say this is going to be BattleNet. Or BattleNet, let's use the same convention, username. And then BattleNet ID, because that's what it's called. Also a text, and also required. And there are a lot of different validation rules we have available here. So that's so far what we got here. Why don't we add actually another, I'll just clone this actually, so I don't have to redo that. Nice feature to copy paste. And I'm going to put this over here so we can also section this off for contact information. And let's make this, I don't know, an H4. Let's see what that would look like. And this will be applicant contact information. So let's see, preview that. Okay. First, that looks to me a little bit busy. So maybe I might want to add a little break, perhaps. Let's try adding a BR tag. See if that makes a difference. A little bit of a difference. Enough that I'm going to move on. Okay. So we've got that. Let's look what else we have here. So we've got contact information, character name dash server. So that's a common convention that WoW players use. It's their username dash server. So if your username would be, let's say, Thor, so it would be Thor dash server, which, you know, could be something like Zul'jin or something like that. So we can just use one field since it's a very common notation, and people immediately understand that what it means. So let me add some more columns, rows rather. Wait, I should be able to, JC, shouldn't I just be able to drag this and have it create a new one? I thought.
Yes.
Why isn't it creating a new, like, row? Bug? Maybe?
Maybe.
Okay, well, that works close enough. So, all right. So, character name server. JC, do you play World of Warcraft?
No, I've heard a lot about that game, but never played actually.
Okay. You should try it someday. Oh, right. So, character name and server. Character name dash server. And this is also required. And here we can actually add, well, there's going to be a hyphen there. So let's see, is there any other validations we could add for that would include the hyphen? I don't know if alphanumeric would include it, would it? I don't know. Well, let's just keep it as is then. And right, so type text required. Okay. So we've got the name. Now we're going to do your current progression. So what's progression? It basically means, you know, do you have any experience? It's kind of like applying for a job almost. Do you have any experience playing World of Warcraft at the competitive level of, you know, of cutting edge where you're getting paid to play? I mean, some of these players, it's incredible. They make a lot of money just playing video games. It's, like I said, if they had this when I was younger, I would not be in this role. Okay, so what were we gonna do next? The progression. So let's think. What would be a cool way instead of just a boring text box for progression? So progression, in this case, I believe in the current retail version, I think there's 11 bosses in the raid. So your progression would be X out of 11 of those bosses. So what we could do actually is we could do a checkbox. So what we could do is, yeah, let's do that. So where's the checkbox? There we go, checkbox. Let's put a checkbox over here. And we're going to have a checkbox for each one of the bosses. So for that, let's go over to Raider.io. Easiest way I can figure to get the bosses. Race to world first. This is what we were talking about. Lot of ads. So why is this in a weird language? Something's off here. Oh, okay, so they're not. So let's just go to raids, spellature of the first ones, boss rankings, or raid rankings. Okay, so we've got Vigilant Guardian. So we can, let me just bring this over here. So, so just so we can also allow people that maybe don't have experience to apply, we won't make this actually required. So we're going to call this bosses downed, aka progression, and not required, not checked by default. And where is the data? Wait, is it a checkbox or check group? I need a check group, right?
Well, if you need a check group, you need to use a list.
That's right. That's right. Okay, thank you. So let's
No
redo this
problem.
then. List. Record list, right? That's what you mean? Or select list?
Select list. You gotta
Okay.
select list
All
instead of
right.
using that
But it's a
checkbox.
but it's a drop down, right? I want to be. Can I select multiple values?
And it has in the properties you can change to be a check group, a radio group. So
Okay. So why don't you walk us through how to set that up? Let me just first name it. And so this is gonna be bosses.
not a record list, just a select list.
Yeah, this is a select list.
That one.
Yeah. So progression. Okay, so and then right, if you're watching the live stream, it's a little bit behind. So I gotcha. So okay, so where do I go then to configure it? I'm assuming advanced maybe?
In the data source,
Data
in
source.
the configuration. Yep, there's where you get to see. So actually select what this is
There
gonna
we go.
be.
Radio group. Gotcha. Okay, cool. So so we've got bosses, right? Vigilant Guardian. So Vigilant Guardian. Apologies. Vigilant Guardian. So that's the first one. The second boss is Skolex. I actually did not raid in this tier, so I usually know these by heart. But in this case, I do not. So instead of doing all 11, just for the sake of time, I'm going to do the first 3. Artificer Zymox. Artificer Zymox, right? Zymox. Oh, this is a value. So Artificer Zymox, and then Artificer Zymox, like that, I think. So let's just assume that in this raid tier, for example, they had, only three raids. So 3 of 3 would be considered, cutting edge. So now we've got a little checkbox here so you can show what your progression is. So great, we've got that one. Let's see what our form looks like in the meantime. All right, this is looking good. This is looking really good for now. So let's save it, since you always want to save so you don't lose your stuff. And let's go back to the application form and see what else we want to add. So Warcraft logs link, that's a whole can of worms. So since this is for BPMN and workflow, I'm not going to get into what Warcraft logs is right now, but it's an important field. It basically it's proving what you're saying. Like, anyone can say that they down those bosses, but you actually have logs to prove it. So we can just add a simple line input for that, and we'll just say Warcraft logs, and that can be a text. And sometimes people maybe want to share it privately or something, so we'll not make that required. And then your class. So instead of class, we're just gonna do just like a job application. They want to know a little bit about you, which is understandable. So we're not gonna do any of that stuff just because we're already halfway through the live session. So I'm gonna just do one more field, and that's gonna be a drop down, and that will be role. And role can be 3 options, and this is required. Sorry guys, I'm getting over a cold. Not COVID, don't worry. Alright, data source, and then we're gonna say the first value is going to be DPS. DPS, for those uneducated, are damage per second. So it's been incorporated over time into a acronym DPS. That's just a role now. So and you have classes that can have actually multiple roles. So let's add also HPS, or healer is actually more common, so say healer. And then the third role you usually have is a tank. So we're going to call that a tank. He's the guy who takes all the hits. The healer heals everybody, and the DPS kills the bad guy. So let's take a look at what that looks like now. Awesome. And as JC pointed out, I can now select multiple options here with a very nice little drop down, and I've got all 3 selected. So I think this is shaping up to look like a really cool form. So now that we got that, and this is going to be an important field, by the way, because you're going to see we're going to drive some of the workflow off of that. So I'm going to create a new multi-column label layout just because I want this for the buttons. So we're going to create some buttons. I am so bad. My eyesight is killing me right now. Submit button. There we go. So, and submit button, I like. It's pretty cool because we're going to create, well, we actually only need 1 right now, right? Because he's just submitting it. So we're going to call this just submit application. And the variable is submit. The value is true. Let's just say that it's been submitted. And that is going to be, this is going to be our form, and this is what it looks like. And we can see that there are 4 validation errors because there's 4 required fields, and we can see that it automatically, JC, have you seen me enter even 1 line of code yet?
No.
Not a single line of code, and it automatically somehow knows that there's 4 validation errors. How cool is that? So save that again just in case. Now let's go back to our process that we started building out, and let's edit it. And as soon as it loads, we'll assign that new form we made to the web entry. So screen associated is going to be new guild application. type is a screen, or action completed, sorry, is a screen. Why don't we try for fun URL? Redirect to the URL. Let's say that we redirect to HTTP, and then we go, let's just redirect back to ProcessMaker. Let's try that. I always like to allow query strings so you can pre-populate data from the get. And we save the process as soon as I get confirmation. Okay, now let's copy the link. Oh, actually, first before we do that, I like to go down here. So every, behind the scenes, every element on the screen has an ID. So in this case, its ID is node_5, but we can change that. So let's say, let's do start, right? Or actually start application. It has to be something that can be used in a URL though. So let's say that again. And yeah, we can see that it's now there. So if I copy, open up a new tab, and paste it, so you can see firstly my domain of ProcessMaker, which is my local host, and then it's a web entry. Well, what's the ID for the web entry? Sorry, for the process. And then what is the ID for the web entry start point? And we put that in. And wait for it. Did I do something wrong here? Probably. Well, maybe I need a task for it to do something. Probably, yeah. So let's just connect the dot. Let's just build out a quick scaffold then while we're at it. So this is going to be submit application. Actually, no, we already submitted the application. So this is going to be, actually, let's do this. Let's do a gateway, because like we said, it's going to depend on that role field. So we go into there. Now we're going to check what the role is. And now the second lane is going to be the officer review. And I already know there's going to have to be another one for the guildmaster. So GM review, because he wants to be involved, knowing what's going on. Even though, actually, now that I think about it, there's even another approval, which would be for the raid leader, right? So let's make this one the GM review, but the person who really has the most say is the raid leader, because he's the one who's leading the raid. And so if he doesn't want you in his raid, you're not going to be in his raid, and that's end of story. So now that we've got this scaffolded out, I don't like it pool. Let me rename this here and call it new guildie or guild new guildie application. So then we can say a task for the officer. So there's different kinds of officers. There's DPS officers, healer officers, and tank officers. So first, before the raid leader wastes his time even looking at this applicant, we want to have the relevant officer, DPS or whatnot, look at this guy and see if he's even of the right caliber, right? So he'd probably review the Warcraft log. So review candidate, maybe submission, I guess. And he'll go and he'll look at the Warcraft logs. He'll talk to the guy, maybe try and understand who he is. And then if everything is good, then he will let the raid leader maybe interview him, or at least review the information, so that he can then try out as a trial raider. So approve raid spot. So, and he also will have to say, well, if you're a healer, we only have 4 healer spots, so we can put you on the bench, kind of thing. So actually, this is not true. This is another gateway, because what if the officer doesn't like him, right? So approved, I guess. Approved is a word we use a lot in workflow, so whenever possible I try to kind of stay away from it, but sometimes it's inevitable. So so if it's approved, right now we're just building out the happy path, right? So if it's approved by the relevant officer, then it goes to the raid leader, and if the raid leader approves it, then it goes to the GM to review. So we're gonna add, and we're also gonna add a gateway. And raid spot, yes or no. And then final GM approval. And if he approves it, then happy path, he goes there. All right. And then the GM can also decide, maybe he knows the guy and he knows he's a bad apple or something like that. So he may decide to override or overrule or have a discussion with his officers. So admit to guild, and that will be the final part of this little process. How are we doing on time? We've got 20 minutes left. Okay. And like I said, feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'm happy to answer them live. We're monitoring the chat actively. So, okay, so this is all happy path, and then we're going to add, I don't have the send message here. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Might have to add that package. So we're going to just go to end event for now. In between, I'll put an email there. So we can end it with admitted. Cool. So now let's build out the unhappy path. So role, if role is going to go. Well, let's see. Do we want to have a split at role, or is it just about assignment? Because let's think. If he's DPS, he's gonna go to. Yeah, so it would actually be a little more complicated to do that. So we can do it in a more simple way if we just split it out per officer. So if I add 2 more, so then this one will be officer healing. Or you know what? Actually, a better way might be to just do something else. Actually, I have a better idea. So we are going to make different tasks. Yeah. So we'll make review DPS recruit. Yeah, this is simpler and faster just because we're on time. Gonna delete that and then move that for now, and let's just create 3 quick tasks. And this one is going to be review healer recruit and review tank recruit. Second, let me just take a sip. So our process is kind of starting to come together a little bit. You can see the structure of it, and now we're gonna split the gateway now into the 3 different categories of officers. So now, based on the role, it's gonna go to the relevant approver. Excellent. Then after that, they're gonna converge back to this gateway to see if the candidate was approved. And I'm going to do something about these lines. Actually, let me move this first over here. Yeah, the lines can get kind of messy. So let me just take care of that real quick, especially when you got so many things going into it like this. So yeah, so let's do this, but centering it there, moving it. I like how it's so easy to like change the connector lines here. It's really like well thought out, I think. So kudos to our engineering team. Okay, and then we got that going there. This can go, I guess, up here. And move that like there. Cool. And then let's just make this one a little bit better by bringing this down like that. Okay. We can actually make this one a little better. I'm kind of anal when it comes to this, in case you haven't noticed. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like that. So okay, so let's review. We start the event and then we check what role are you. Are you DPS, healer, or tank? Then, are you approved? Well, if you're approved, then you go to the raid leader for a raid spot if he likes you. Okay. And then what if you're not approved though? So if you're not approved, then you would get an email probably. So once I get into the email side, I don't know if I'll have time this session, but we'll send an email notifying them that they were unfortunately not selected. Oh. There. Ugh. There we go. Okay, so if you're rejected, you are let's say not approved. I don't like using negative words. Not approved. I thought I changed this to admitted. Okay, so if you're approved, you go to raid spot. If not, you end the process. Okay, next, approve raid spot by the raid leader. So the raid leader then is gonna say raid spot yes or no. Let me just make this a little bit bigger here. And then the raid leader says, well, the GM says, do I admit you or not? But then what if you don't get a raid spot? What if the raid leader doesn't want you to participate? Or, you're not the right, candidate, right? So something's wrong with this. Let me just redo this one. Okay, that's good. And then, so let's bring this back up here then. And then if you have a raid spot, great. If not, then we're just also ideally with an email, which we'll get to, you would then send them an email. Okay, so if you get a raid spot, if you don't get a raid spot, end events. If you do, actually let's start labeling these, right? So this is gonna be DPS. And this is going to be healer. And this will be tank. And now we can start putting in the rules, right? So let me just save this so I don't lose the data. But if we go back to the form we were working on. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong instance. So let me open up a new tab and go back to that form because I don't recall the value I gave it. So I'm just gonna avoid human error and copy paste. And so role, right? I made it simple. That's great. So role equals tank. What value did I give it? Data sources, lowercase, lowercase, lowercase. Cool, all lowercase. So if role is equal to tank, then the workflow is going to send it to this task. If role is equal to healer, then it sends it to this task. And if it's a DPS, then I bet you can guess it's going to be role equals DPS. It's pretty simple, and you're able to use any kind of field expression, I believe, for this this box here. So now we got our routing rules for this setup. We'll have to create the forms, which will be easy, and then it goes here, right? And then if they approve it, so then it goes to the raid leader. So we will be creating a variable for this. So we can just say, let's think, what should we create the variable? Let's say it's the officer approval. Officer approved equals yes. Then it goes there. And then another neat feature we can use for this is just default. So by default, you get declined. If you get approved, then it doesn't go to the default flow. So this is the flow it'll go to always, unless this condition is true or another branch of the workflow is true. Okay, so now that we got that set up, so we've got this decision part going, we've got these three guys reviewing it, we need to create their form still, and they all connect to this gateway where we make the decision and we ask, are we going to, is it approved? And if it's not, it goes to not approved end task, and if it is approved, then we go back to the raid leader where he will need to review it. Okay, so then the raid leader reviews it. If the raid leader approves it, and we can say let's say slotted, since he's slotted for trial, then we can say raid, let's see, RL, because that's an abbreviation people use. Raid leader approved is equal to yes. So raid leader approved equals yes, and if raid leader, let me just copy that. If raid leader is no, or actually, you know what, let's use the same logic. Consistent, make that the default flow. And this will be not slotted. Okay, excellent. So that is set up, and then yeah, we got that. Then the final guildmaster approval. If he's admitted to the guild, great. So this is why we need to have that email, is because it's effectively the same outcome from the guildmaster's point of view, but it's functionally slightly different. Just that he's got he gets a different email, and oh sorry, not that one. This one for now, and this one will be not admitted. Sorry about that, guys. I'm really sorry. Okay, and then we send it there. Let me fix the line. And again, we'll make that the default, and here we'll say admit, and then we'll say if GM approved, just using the same syntax, is yes. Otherwise, it goes to not admitted. Now, if you're, obviously this is just for fun. This is video games and stuff. But if you're an enterprise customer, if you want to take this to the next level and think about it from that point of view, and that's, I guess we're not going to be able to wrap this up. Maybe we can do a part 2 of this next time. But if you think about this from an enterprise point of view, it really is translatable to almost any process you can think of, right, JC? I mean, if you think about, let's say, an onboarding, an employee onboarding, or you think about, a new hire application, or so many different kinds of things that this is applicable. I mean, we're taking an application form application approval process, really. And every application approval process has its nuances. In this case, it's specific to World of Warcraft. It's got different, uniques, like, for joining a team, effectively, what role are you, and all that stuff. So, but sorry, what I was gonna say though, I went on a tangent. What I meant to say here is final GM approval. I mean, if we're talking about like Limit and Echo, like the really big esport guilds, I'm sure they've got their own systems. Not sure, I know actually they have systems, and so you might actually want to, instead of, if he's admitted, instead you might actually want to have a data connector, which is a whole nother story. It's an enterprise feature. This allows you to connect to REST endpoints. It allows you to connect to APIs. So in theory, you could then do that, just send it to that system. And another cool thing is, to be honest, and I just literally thought of this now, is all this information that we put here, this could be simplified. If we really wanted to, we could simply say, put in your battle.net.id, and World of Warcraft does have open APIs that you could query and get all this information. Well, not Warcraft logs, but they also have APIs. And you could simply use a data connector to simply connect to Warcraft logs or connect to World of Warcraft and get all their information and pre-populate it for them anyways. So it's 2:57. We're kind of running up on time today, so I think that is going to conclude the live stream for today. I was really hoping we could get this done, but it's almost done. I'd say it's like probably 60-70% done, and this only took us about an hour, and this wasn't even based off of any kind of requirement stock. This was just an idea I had that I thought would be cool to kind of put on paper, or digital paper, if you will. So for those of you who are not on the live stream, and those who are, please feel free to add comments if you like this this kind of live stream and you want to see it again, you want us to do this again, please let us know. Give us that feedback. We're trying different stuff out, and so if this is something that people find interesting, or if we can change the format or do something else, we're open to suggestions. We want to engage with you, the community. We want you guys to feel empowered, and whatever we can do at ProcessMaker to help you be more successful ultimately at using our product and learning our product, and making your life easier and making every second count with ProcessMaker, then leave that feedback for us if you can. It would be greatly appreciated. And in case you're not a subscriber of ProcessMaker and you're curious about business process management and all that kind of stuff, please feel free to hit the subscribe button below, like the video, share on your social media, all the usual stuff that all those YouTubers normally say. And with that, thank you everybody for joining our live stream. Thank you, and we will see you guys in the next one.